SciAgent, a unified multi-agent system for generalistic scientific reasoning. That's the paper we're diving into today, and if you need the quick summary, here it is. SciAgent is this hierarchical multi-agent system that has achieved what the field calls true generalistic scientific reasoning across multiple disciplines.
And what's immediately striking is how it moves past these narrow single-domain AIs. It uses a dynamic three-tier architecture. You have a coordinator that, orchestrates specialized worker agents. And because of that organizational brilliance, it achieved gold medal performance in these top-tier international science and math competitions.
And we're not talking about small competitions here. This is the International Mathematical Olympiad, the IMO 2025, the International Collegiate Mathematics Competition, IMC 2025, and then the Physics Olympiads, both IPhO and CPhO show. It's a clean sweep.
It is. And the core mechanism is really architectural. It's a coordinator agent that routes problems to the best specialized worker system for the job. The whole reasoning pipeline sort of self-assembles. It adapts based on the problem's complexity and domain.
And that's the mission of this deep dive, to really understand how they built a genuinely flexible, multidisciplinary scientific mind.
To really appreciate the innovation, I think we have to frame the core challenge that SciAgent is trying to solve. If you look at the current state-of-the-art AI systems, even the really powerful ones, agents built on, say, GPT-5 or Gemini 2.5 Pro, they're all fundamentally narrow.
You mean they can win a competition? Sure, but they're hyper-optimized for just that one competition.
Exactly. They are tailored. They use these handcrafted, domain-specific heuristics and fixed reasoning pipelines. So an agent can ace a coding benchmark or solve differential equations like a genius, but then you ask that same agent to interpret a complex chemical structure, and it just fails. Or it needs a complete, really costly re-engineering of its entire tool chain. That's domain-bounded reasoning.
Right. So the goal isn't just about getting higher accuracy in one field. It's about achieving a kind of scientific fluidity, the ability to switch modes of thought.
Precisely. The paper defines its key contribution as achieving generalistic scientific reasoning. And what that means is the AI can autonomously select, compose, and adapt all these different reasoning strategies. Symbolic deduction, conceptual modeling, numerical simulation, all without a human having to step in and redesign everything. It's aiming for something closer to scientific cognition.
That distinction is huge. Moving from just task success to true cognitive adaptability, that requires a pretty radical departure from just using a big monolithic model. And I think that brings us to the architecture, which is really the heart of SciAgent, this three-tier hierarchy.
Yeah, if you think about how a successful human research team works, right? They don't solve every problem the same way. There's a team leader, there are specialized researchers, and then you have the analysts doing the execution. SciAgent mirrors this. It's coordinator, then worker, then sub-agents.
Okay, let's unpack that first layer. The top-tier manager, the coordinator agent. What's it doing when a problem first lands?
So this agent is the meta-reasoner. It performs what the paper calls hierarchical meta-reasoning. It doesn't actually solve the problem itself. Its job is global task understanding. It does this initial triage, inferring three key factors. The scientific domain, so is it pure math or applied physics? Then the modality required, text, image, numerical data, and finally an assessment of the difficulty level.
So it's not just looking for keywords, it's recognizing the fundamental type of thinking that's going to be required.
Absolutely. And based on that meta-understanding, it executes dynamic task routing. It dispatches the problem to the single most suitable specialized worker system. This explicit meta-control layer is the secret weapon, really. It's what allows SciAgent to generalize.
That makes perfect sense. The decision-making layer is totally separate from the execution layer. But let me just push back a little here. If all the intelligence is in the routing, isn't that just another form of human pre-engineering? I mean, the human still has to build all the specialized workers, right?
That's a really important question. But the difference is in the modularity and extensibility of those worker systems. Now we're dropping down to that mid-level. Each worker is a self-contained multi-agent team that specializes in a specific reasoning paradigm. They're the domain experts.
Yeah.
What this setup means is that if you want to add a completely new scientific domain, say bioinformatics, you just instantiate a new worker system. You don't have to touch or retrain the existing math or physics components at all.
So you don't break the entire machine every time you add a new tool. That is genuinely scalable. And then at the very bottom, we have the specialized hands-on execution agents, the sub-agents.
Right. These are the execution layer, the solvers, the modelers, the verifiers, all the specialized analysis tools. Right. Within whichever worker was selected, they collaboratively assemble the actual reasoning pipeline. And crucially, They communicate using these feedback-driven critique revision loops to refine their intermediate results until they get a high-confidence solution.
That critique loop feels so important. It really mirrors the human process, right? You generate a hypothesis, you run the numbers, you find an error, and you iteratively refine your method until you converge on the answer. The architecture is treating problem-solving as this inherently social, iterative process.
Precisely. It's an intellectual conversation happening entirely inside the machine, guided by these high-level architectural rules.
Okay, now we get to what I think is the most fascinating part. How this abstract, general architecture translates into fundamentally different ways of thinking across scientific fields. The reasoning flow just changes dramatically depending on the domain.
And that adaptation is the proof of the generalistic claim. Let's start with a really common tool in a lot of LLM agents, the REACT framework. It stands for reasoning and action. It's usually a sequence of thought, action, observation steps. Great for iterative planning and tool use.
Right. It's the standard approach when you need to consult a calculator or search for something mid-thought.
Correct. But SciAgent's Math Olympia worker system completely rejects REACT. And this is really telling. The math worker specializes in symbolic deduction and formal proof verification, tasks you need for the IMO.
Okay, so why reject the standard tool?
Because mathematical proofs require these logically complete, uninterrupted deductive chains. In the context of a complex multi-step proof, that iterative REACT framework can actually be harmful. The continuous looping thought, action, observation over and over, it just wastes precious context window space on planning and tool calls. An extended deductive chain can easily just saturate the model's context window before you even get to a coherent proof.
So it's sacrificing that iterative planning efficiency for the integrity of the proof itself.
Exactly. Instead, the math worker uses a specialized structured reasoning review architecture. You have a generator agent that crafts the proof, an improver agent that tries to self-correct, and then a reviewer agent that formally validates the whole thing. It forces rigor.
But then, when we move over to the physics and chemistry workers, they swing right back to using the REACT framework. Why the change?
Because physics problems, like the ones in IPhO or CPhO, are multimodal. They're inherently step decomposable. Solving a physics problem means you have to switch between conceptual modeling, integrating data from diagrams, doing complex numerical analysis, and then summarizing it all.
And that step-by-step process fits the iterative nature of REACT perfectly.
It really does. So the Physics Olympiad worker system uses REACT to integrate these specialized subagents. Like it has an image analyzer agent to interpret complex diagrams and schematics, and a summarizer agent to pull findings together. It's super flexible.
And what about the Chemistry Olympiad worker system?
The chemistry worker also benefits from REACT's tool use flexibility because it's dealing with complex chemical reactions and molecular structures. But it integrates these highly specialized domain tools. For instance, it uses a molecule recognition agent and the SMILES verify agent.
We should probably pause there for a second. What is SMILES? For the technically curious among us.
Right. So SMILES stands for Simplified Molecular Input Line Entry System. It's basically a linear text notation used to represent the structure of chemical molecules. It allows for really rapid input and calculation. The SMILES verify agent just makes sure that the chemical structure the system generates is valid and accurate according to that standard. It's a great example of integrating specialized knowledge via REACT.
And we also see the generalistic claims validated in the general exam worker system, right? Which tackled the humanities last exam benchmark.
Yeah, the HLE is designed for broader, less specialized tasks. And for that worker system, SciAgent uses breakdown agents to efficiently decompose really big, complex problems into smaller, manageable sub-questions. It shows how it scales across non-specialized domains.
This incredible adaptability across all these different paradigms is why the system performs so well. Let's look at the numbers, because the scores compared to human baselines are, well, they're staggering.
They really are. Starting with mathematics, in the IMO 2025, SciAgent scored 36 out of 42. And what's critical is this surpassed the average human gold medalist score, which was 35.94. Even more impressive, in the IMC 2025, that's the collegiate competition, it achieved a perfect score, 100, matching the highest human performance.
But here is where it gets really crazy, the part that just underscores the power of this architecture. In physics, for the CPhO 2025, SciAgent got 264 out of 320. That score didn't just meet the gold standard. It significantly surpassed the human gold medalist record of 199. That is a clear margin of superiority. You don't see that in many benchmarks.
No, you don't. That massive gap strongly validates this whole multi-agent orchestration idea. And we see evidence of this precision in the detailed examples, too. In one of the HLE math tasks, it had to do a hidden Markov model log probability calculation. SciAgent nailed it. It identified the correct hidden state sequence 2 to 4 to 6 and got the log probability of -6.1861.
And it also showed it could apply core engineering principles, like using Thevenin's theorem to analyze a complex ladder network and find the cutoff frequency. It's demonstrating not just recall, but actual application.
Absolutely. It's showing competence across deep, complex technical reasoning. We should, though, briefly mention the limitations the researchers themselves flagged.
Yes, the paper mentioned that for chemistry, IChO, and biology, IBO, the results are a bit constrained.
Correct. And the key issue there is just a lack of publicly available, standardized human baseline data. So even though the chemistry agent system is very strong, a direct quantitative comparison to human gold medalists is just really challenging because of that data scarcity.
So what does this all mean for the future of AI in science? We started by saying this goes beyond just scaling up models.
I think SciAgent's success really validates the idea that generalistic scientific intelligence requires sophisticated architectural orchestration. It demonstrates that the path forward isn't just about making the base models bigger, but about treating reasoning as a dynamic, collaborative, almost social process among specialized, coordinated agents.
And by demonstrating this high-level performance and cross-domain adaptability through that coordinator-worker-sub-agent hierarchy, this framework really does set the stage for the next generation of AI, one that can reason coherently across disciplines.
And that coherence raises a pretty profound question for you, the researcher listening to this. SciAgent moves AI from just reproducing expert reasoning to potentially generating original scientific insight. So if you had a system that could seamlessly transition between symbolic math proofs, complex chemical modeling using SMILES, and expert image analysis for physics, what challenging cross-disciplinary research workflow could you automate today? This system suggests that the coordination of intelligence is every bit as important as the intelligence itself.